Hello, everyone. Welcome to VRIC Media, your most trusted voice in metals and mining. I'm your host, Darrell Thomas, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Jeff Clark, who is no stranger to the show. He is the founder and editor at the Gold Advisor. He also does some work with the Silver Advisor as well, and he is the author of this book, Pay Dirt. So I encourage you all to go pick it up so that you can learn more about mining for profits in the mining sector. So how you doing today, Jeff?
Oh, I'm doing great, Darrell. Thanks for having me. This is a good time to be talking, huh?
Yes, I agree. I agree. So obviously, let's just pick up from. I want to say where we left off because you were on about a couple months ago, but the last time we interviewed, we've spoken. We've had a gold and silver correction, and it seems like we're out of that correction now. From my perspective, gold's been holding steady above $4,000 an ounce. Silver has been trading around the $50 mark. It's been holding above it, but then, the futures will sometimes go to 49. I'm sure the spot price is still higher than 50. So just want to get your perspective on the metals right now.
Well, you're right. The last time we talked, gold and silver were flying, and they had a little mini mania going on, if you will. Since then, they have corrected, and now we're in a consolidation mode. Where they're just basically trading sideways, and in my opinion, building energy for the next leg up. So, I think you're right. The correction probably is over. Although there could be dips below 4,000 in gold and $50 silver, but I think we're just gearing up for, or the metals are gearing up for the next leg higher, which, if you forced me to guess, I would say Q1 of 2026.
Okay, Q1 2026. So that also aligns with some of the other forecasts from some of the big institutions, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. They have these price targets of, I think, $5,000 gold end of 2026. And
Yeah.
so are you in that camp, or are you into a price target camp, or where are you at on that spectrum?
Well, making predictions is so hard. It's just too easy to be wrong. It's not a 50-50 thing. It's a 99-1-10 with 99% against you. Just go ahead and try it, and you'll see it's very hard. But that said, I do agree with the $5,000 gold price targets for 2026, sometime in 2026. Again, probably the latter half. So I think that's where we're headed. Silver's a different beast. I think, as your audience knows, it tends to outperform gold in the second half of a bull market. Well, what we had was gold leading, silver lagging until just very recently. And all of a sudden, silver started to gain more percentage wise than gold did. So we have that setup now in place where silver can launch off of what it's done before and actually outperform gold in 2026. So it sounds crazy, but I just would not be surprised to see, let's say $75 silver by the end of next year, by this time next year. So I think both metals are basically building energy right now. I think we're at halftime or the end of the first quarter, whatever you want to say,
Hmm.
and we're building energy so they can take off again and have their next big up leg sometime in 2026. That's my personal forecast and what I'm personally betting on.
Gotcha. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I've been finding so many tailwinds. It's hard for me to find some headwinds for gold and
That's a good
silver.
way to put it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna lay some of them out and just want to get your perspective. Okay,
Okay.
so obviously the central banks continue to buy. Right now, the gold price shot up significantly when the trade war occurred in Liberation Day back in April. So, like the geopolitical uncertainty as well as tension across global relations.
Yep.
But right now, many of those tariffs are at the Supreme Court. So even if the Supreme Court rules against them, that tariff revenue has to be refunded, which I think is going to blow out the deficits even more, right? Because the deficit's been, so it's kind of like, okay, well, gold's going to rally on on that
Right.
too, So
Right.
I've been trying to find like, what are the headwinds for gold and silver right now? I'm just curious. Do you have any headwinds that we should be thinking about or no?
That's a very good question. I like it because you don't want to just be blindly bullish all the time. And this, I hate to say it now and it's premature, but it will come to an end someday.
Yeah.
So it's healthy for us to think about, okay, what could happen that maybe we don't expect, or could be a headwind that would either end the bull market or at least keep gold and silver from rising again. I mean, geez, Darrell, we maybe, a lot of the short term stuff is, are they going to raise rates or not? What interest rates are going to do? What's the Fed going to
Mm,
do? And I hate that we have to look at the gold price, based on what the Fed might do, but they have an impact. They
yeah.
can, force the price one way or the other. So we do have to watch what they do. Maybe they do something that isn't bullish for gold, but is bearish for gold. They don't raise the rates. Um, oh my gosh,
It's
I'm
hard,
trying.
right?
It is hard. You're right. Maybe if the geopolitical stuff reverses and all of a sudden there's no more wars and no more conflicts,
Yeah.
no more big disagreements or threats. If
And
all
we
of
come
that went
together and
away,
sing
and that's,
Kumbaya.
yeah, right. All of that would have to go away for it to impact gold. But that's just door number one. What's behind door number two? Well, we have the debts and the deficits and the tariffs and all that stuff. And then there's door number three. Then there's door number 4, 5, 6. Then there's door number 10, which is the black swans.
Yeah.
Half of all the crises that we've had that have impacted economies and markets were black swans. COVID being a good example of that. So
Yeah.
you have to be aware that when you have black swans that can be that prevalent, we haven't had one in 5 years now. So I don't know. I think it's a great question, Darrell. I have to think more about it because you're right. There's not a lot of headwinds out there. Now, it doesn't mean gold's going to go to the moon. I'm not saying that. I don't think you're saying that. But
Yeah.
there's not enough there to say we're not going to have another big uptrend in gold and silver. I think that's, there's no guarantee, but that's not a risk-less bet, but it's not a risky bet either. I think that's what
Mhm.
is likely to happen.
Yeah. What's your take on these kind of? I feel like they're kind of manufactured articles to like produce some type of bearish news, and they just kind of come out the blue, like this country finds, tons of gold, or now they can manufacture gold from through some scientific process and such. And I've been like seeing these articles, on different places, and they pop up on my Google feed and such. And I'm like, how credible are these articles? Like, it's kind of interesting how they're popping up nowadays.
Well, first of all, is it AI generated, right?
Yeah.
But I see those. I get them too, Darrell, and this is what I do: delete, delete, delete. I mean, a lot of those are just rubbish. They don't know what they're talking about. Countries that say they've found, 1 billion ounces of gold or whatever, you know, that's not proven up. We all know it takes 10 years to get to production after it's proven up. A lot of those countries are not, they're far flung countries that are risky jurisdictions. That's another issue to consider. So I don't pay much attention to that. I might read it just to make sure, but the other ones of like, gold can be made out of this or that,
Yeah.
gold takes billions of years, millions of years, billions of years to actually create. So I think God's done with that. So we,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
put a whole lot of into those kind of articles.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just see them pop up and just like, yeah, what the heck is this? So yeah, appreciate you sharing that. Okay, so silver, obviously we're still operating at a deficit. There's been a lot of pressure on the physical market. And so, I've been kind of wondering, are there any headwinds for silver in this scenario? And you all do due diligence on silver
Yeah,
market and such.
there
And
are
so,
headwinds for silver and some that even gold doesn't have. If we get a recession, for example, silver, I don't know that it's ever risen in a recession. I have to go back and look at the data.
hmm
Gold usually rises, silver usually falls. In a
yeah,
stock market correction or bear market, silver tends to be weak, gold tends to be strong. So, those kind of issues, economic issues, because, let's face it, a large portion of silver's industrial demand. So if the economy's weak, industrial demand would be weak, which would make silver weak. That's the logic. So that's why silver usually doesn't do well in those environments. So silver
hmm
does have some headwinds. But at the end of the day, those are really short term things. I mean, a recession can last a long time, but if gold begins to rise in earnest, silver's going to follow it. That's been its historical behavior. So,
hmm
silver might have some headwinds, potential headwinds, we should say, because there's been a lot of people calling for a recession for 5 years, and
yeah,
we're not
yeah,
there. 3 years ago, I was calling for a recession, saying the strongest indicator of a pending recession is XYZ, and we had it, and a recession never happened. So
yeah.
I just gave up trying to make predictions. I just worry about being, and I know I'm getting off topic, Darrell, but I just worry about making sure I'm prepared for whatever that scenario is. And that
hmm
means making sure I own enough physical gold and silver to withstand whatever those crises might be. I want the oldest hedge in mankind's history as my buffer. And
hmm
so that's it. So even though silver, getting back to your question, may have some headwinds, I view them as temporary. Again, before this is all over, and I know your audience knows this, silver will outperform gold on a percentage basis before it's all over. So
hmm
I think that's what's coming. We just don't know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what the percent return is going to be. But we do know that silver is going to outrun gold, and gold is going to have another uptrend. So there you go.
Yeah.
Circa 2020, we pivoted the entire company, turned on its head, brought in new management, George B., our CEO, who's built gold mines all over the planet, and we focused in on CK, copper cake. It was not reliant on drill holes and discoveries. We can go through this process, engineering, permitting, get towards a development stage asset. US Gold Corp is a near-term, low-cost gold producer in Wyoming. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.com.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if we have some type of pullback, will the big players who need this physical metal, um, it seemed like the supply is going to get gobbled up if it's like at a cheaper price.
Well, that's
Especially,
definitely. Oh, sorry.
yeah, no, I was just thinking like, especially like, when Trump put it on the critical minerals list, and such. And so, imagine silver fall into, 30, $35. It seems like it's already tight supply. It seems like those 1,000 ounce bars are going to be requested, or like industries are
Right.
going to want to buy it. It's like, hey, this is on sale. We need it. It seems like they're going to gobble it up.
I think that's very, very possible and maybe even probable. We're in the fifth year now of silver deficits. 5 consecutive years. That's never happened before in history. Now, we started with a big, silver stockpile 5 years ago, but that's dwindling. It's going down. And, this is interesting that it's making headlines that we've had 5 consecutive years of deficits. So the big players you're referring to will probably just buy GLD or SLV. A lot of them won't want silver or gold physical, because then they got to pay for storage and they're buying a lot. So their storage bill would be, substantially high.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that still, to your point, takes 1,000-ounce bars of silver off the market, because then they have to go to SOV or whatever vehicle they're using. So I think that's very possible that we're going to see supply dwindle even more. And, silver is such a small market that everybody knows it outperforms gold both ways, right? It's more volatile than gold up and down. But it's such a small market that when you start having some of these big players crowd in, ooh, boy, look out. That's why I think $75 silver is entirely possible next year. Maybe the next uptrend is, 6, 8, 10, 12 months away. I don't think it is. But even if it is, that's probably where we're headed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So you visit quite a few mines. You've been on sites of mines and such, and silver is typically the byproduct of mining other metals, gold,
That's
copper,
right.
zinc, nickel, and such. And so, what are you seeing as far as obviously we have the data that's coming out showing that the output of silver has been at a deficit and isn't meeting demand and such. And so just curious, and what are you seeing like whenever you're on the ground and talking to some of these experts within the mining sector?
Oh, I think that's a good question, but the distinction is they're not worried about supply of gold and silver. They're focused on their company and proving up a deposit or finding a deposit. What they're going to do next, testing for metallurgy, doubling the resource, whatever the case might be. That's what they're focused on, and so that's why I tend to focus a little bit more on the companies and the stocks themselves, as opposed to just, gold and silver. What are they going to do next year?
Yeah.
And the reason I do that, by the way, I haven't told this story before, but I think a lot of people know that I recommended Snowline Gold way back. It was right in the middle of COVID when I recommended it. It was right before a conference, and then COVID hit. Anyway, Snowline Gold is, believe it or not, up 32x
Wow.
as you and I talk here today, since I recommended it 5-ish years ago. It's just a gift that keeps on giving. Now, I've taken profits on it a lot along the way, so my position,
Of course you did.
a lot smaller. But hey, I've bought 10 other stocks, mining stocks, just based on the profits of Snowline Gold. But my point is, Snowline Gold went 32x in the middle of COVID, in the middle of a recession, in the middle of a bear market in gold, with both gold and mining stocks. All Snowline Gold did that despite all of those circumstances. So I learned a lesson from that. You need to focus on the companies and the stocks themselves, despite what the overriding environment might be, because that's where we're going to find our winners. Now, not a lot of stocks are going to do what Snowline Gold did, but if we focus on discovery, we focus on resource expansion, we focus on, some other issues that I've talked about in videos, then I think we stand a good chance of reaping big gains, despite what the environment might be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. So that's actually a really good segue into where I want to go next. So earlier you mentioned, obviously having physical metals to protect yourself against any black swans and such. And there's a really good Chinese proverb that I learned from Ray Dalio, who quoted it. And I believe it's something along the lines of a smart rabbit has 3 holes. And and so thinking of like one of those holes being the actual physical metals themselves and different variations, whether you have junk silver or whatever, American silver eagles, whatever the case may be, right? Just having different options. So now getting to the multi-bagger potential of some of these stocks, right? So for me personally, like I have physical gold and silver. but then I'm also invested in the equities. Obviously, the equities can significantly outperform the physical metals by a lot. I mean, physical metals may go up, 20, 30%, maybe even 100%. I think gold's up 100% on whatever the last year and a half. But these equities can easily go up, 200, 300, 400%, right?
Yep.
And they can technically buy you more gold and silver, because like the amount that the equities increase versus the physical metal. And so just curious on the multi-bagger potentials, and what are some of the companies that you're kind of keeping your eye on right now?
Well, Darrell, I just did a video for an online conference, and they just released it. It was for a paid audience, but they just released it. We posted it on our site, and people can watch it for free. But there are 4 types of stocks, mining stocks, that I'm tracking right now that I've noticed have had the biggest reward. And that is Discovery, which always works in any environment, right? But any company that makes a discovery is going to get rewarded, right? There's the pre-producers. Those are companies that specifically have declared a construction decision, because the stock then tends to get re-rated leading up to first pour. Everybody gets excited about a new gold mine, and that re-rates the stock typically. It's not unusual at all to see doubles and triples in that lead up period. Then you have the resource builders. These are companies that they basically already have a resource, but they're on the cusp of proving up something bigger. And by that, I don't mean 10 to 20%, but I mean double and triple their resource. The company that goes from 1 million ounces to 2 million ounces, or 1.5 to 3, that's what I'm talking about. So those are good bets right now. Those are getting rewarded right now too. And then there's a 4th category that a lot of people have not really been aware of or thought of or realized, and that is new names. New names in the space can bring excitement, and investors can crowd into those new names. Now, it can't just be any new name, right? You still have to apply your criteria and look for good new names, if you will. But when a new company comes onto the scene and they've got some big investors behind it, or they've got a very promising project, or whatever the case might be, that can attract a lot of attention. In that video, which again, people can watch for free, I have stock picks in all 4 of those categories, ones I personally own, and over half of them, by the way, Darrell, are in our paid newsletter. So we have a free newsletter and a paid newsletter. These are in the paid ones, so people can get some free stock picks by watching that video if they want. Now, I encourage people to subscribe, not because I'm trying to sell the service, but because we don't know, this is a paid service, so we're going to buy and sell. I just put a company on hold today that is in that portfolio, not in the 4 categories I'm naming. But my point is, we may change our recommendation. We may even sell. So if you don't have the benefit of watching this and reading this, you may be doing the opposite of what we're doing. So I do encourage people to consider a subscription. It's not all that expensive.
Yeah, but that's really important. I just want to just piggyback on that real quick. That's really important, because if you don't have the time, well, obviously, if some folks are more beta investors, right, and they may just park money in the GLD, GDX, or whatnot. Others may want some exposure to the alpha, and let's say they, hear one of these names on this podcast, and they go buy some shares, but they don't necessarily keep up with the day-to-day of what's happening and such. And you all are actually doing that. And so that's the benefit of subscribing to a service like yours, is because you're doing that due diligence, and you're actually simplifying and reducing the amount of, I guess, reports and such that people have to read by putting that content out to your subscribers.
Yeah, and again, I don't really, I'm not trying to sell subscriptions.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you may write to me, 6 months down the road, what happened to XYZ? Well, we sold it 5 months ago because it failed. So I'm not afraid to sell in there. So either an investor has to watch these stocks themselves or subscribe to a service that is going to do it for them. So,
Yeah.
thank you for mentioning that. But hey, Darrell, I just wanted to say people can watch this. I should tell people where it's at.
Yeah.
But it is on our website, which is thegoldadvisor.com. And then just go to the media tab there at the top and scroll down to conference presentations. And it is the most recent presentation there. It's called Jeff Clark's top gold and silver mining picks there, the most recent one. So people can do that and go watch it for free if they want. And like I said, there's some good picks in there. There's some that I'm overweight, and there's a couple in there. There's one in particular that is the biggest investment I've made so far this year personally. So people can watch it for free.
I get to go watch it first before everybody else. No, just joking. But seriously joking. So if we're looking at the potential of some of these companies, so like you're often at RIC symposium and such, and Rick says like the easy money has been made. So sometimes when I'm learning of the newer companies, there are some that have not moved as much as others, right? I will say that. But when I learn of a new company and I typically go look and you're like, dang, this company's already up, 60, 70% on the year and such. So what would kind of be like your advice or just kind of wisdom to like investors who get in and they see a company and they see that they've already performed significantly, the easy money has been made, and they may be a little more hesitant or cautious about getting in that.
And they should be. That's good. That's a good strategy. Is don't chase something that's already up 500% or 1,000%. The good thing about right now, though, is we're in a consolidation mode. So as gold and silver bounce up and down, so do the mining stocks. And obviously, you want to look at stocks to buy them when they're falling, on days they're going down, or after big dips, or whatever the case might be. So I think, to answer your question, we're in a consolidation phase. So as long as you're not, chasing something, I think most everything is probably a buy right now. If you're buying on down days and buying on pullbacks and things like that. Some of these stocks that have gone up 500% may double yet again. So one example, Heliostar Metals. We own that. We've owned that a long time. It's in our free newsletter, which people can get. It's up like 760% or something. Don't quote me on that. But it's some ridiculous amount since we first recommended it. But I still rated a buy because of the growth in that company that's coming between now and 2030. And I don't think all that's baked into the stock price. So we rate it still a buy. Now, I wouldn't go out and chase it if it goes up 10% one day. I'd wait till it falls 10%. So that's what I mean is I think most of these companies are still rated buys. And again, they're on our website, either in the free letter or the paid letter, as to what we rank them, what we rate them in terms of buy, hold, sell, whatever. But I like that we're in a consolidation phase because it gives us the opportunity to go buy things that maybe we missed, or buy something we want more of, or buy a new name that's coming out. The opportunities are still there. The bull market's not over. And you have a little pause here that gives us a chance to go get something. I agree with Rick. I've said it myself. The easy money has been made, but the big money is ahead. So even something that's gone up 5x could go up, 10x because of what's ahead for the market.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that. What's ahead for the market? So obviously, there's still a lot of investors, I mean, you experienced the prior bull market in the the mid 2000s decade to the 2010s when I believe you were working with Casey Research at that time.
Yeah.
Um, and so so just thinking about that, like obviously we have investors that are in this space. You have some of these companies that have, ran up, 700%, whatever the case may be, right? But thinking about how strong gold has been even during the recent market sell-off, like it's proving itself as a safe haven asset. Um, I mean, obviously, Bitcoin fell significantly, 30%. The stocks were falling significantly. And gold, I was just watching gold and silver during that time, and it's like, oh wow, yeah. Like I'm not surprised, but I was surprised because like I thought maybe it goes back down to 3,900, and just seeing it hold above 4,000, I was thinking, wow, okay, this is like really proving itself as a safe haven asset, and reduces a lot of volatility that's happening around us. So, and then just thinking of like Morgan Stanley, saying, hey, 20% gold, right?
Yeah,
Which
that's amazing.
which was huge, right? And I've
Right.
mentioned that a lot in many interviews, so I'm not going to belabor that point too much. But just thinking about the big money that's ahead, like the average investors and such, like we haven't really. Would you say we haven't seen much of that, right? Into this space yet, right?
Seen much of what?
Just like more of the average investors and like
Oh, right.
flood into the space like the prior bull market.
Yeah, retail demand is actually kind of flatlined. It's not all that great. Now we have had some institutional investors move into gold, obviously, because the price has gone up so much. But
And they typically earlier than some of the average,
right,
crowd, yeah.
right, right. And we saw some of them start to pour in during that mini mania in October that we had. We started to see more pour in, which is when they should not have been pouring in. But we haven't seen, across the board in the general public, mainstream and Wall Street, really dive into it. I watch business shows a lot, and they rarely mention gold still to this day. So, there's a lot still ahead, I think, in terms of demand from the general public. Think about it. The stock market's still going up.
Hmm.
Why should I buy a dirty mining stock, or
Yeah.
some inert metal like gold? Why should I
I
do
don't
that
understand.
when AI is all the rage?
Yep.
So until they kind of not see the light, but until those markets go soft and they look over here, where can we make money? And they see all the green on the screen with producers right now. Margins are higher for producers right now than they've ever been in the history of the gold market. That's
Hmm.
amazing. And that is with inflation that's already risen substantially. But the gold price has risen more. So the margins are actually even higher. So when Wall Street and Main Street look over here at our market and take an in-depth look at it, more of them are going to come over. And those are deep pocketed investors that can bring a lot of demand and a lot of money into our tiny sector.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, appreciate that insight. So what else should the audience? What else you think the audience should think about? As we wrap up this interview, you got any final thoughts for the audience?
I think just to reiterate, this is a consolidation phase. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It is more volatile than usual. Gold and silver are more volatile than usual. Same with mining stocks. Until that phase ends and we start the next uptrend, you have a buying window. Again, provided you're buying on down days, days that things fall. I don't know that window will be open after, let's say Q1 next year. So I personally am investing aggressively right now because I fully anticipate another leg up in this market. I don't think it's going to end. because Darrell Thomas said there's no headwinds for gold. So that's why I'm investing. But I agree with him. So
Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, well, cool. Well, you all be sure to go check out thegoldadvisor.com, as well as click the link that is pinned in the comments below to the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. Jeff will be one of our speakers there, so you can come connect with Jeff and see him live and in person. So, Jeff, appreciate you for coming on to the show, and thank you for your time.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me, Darrell. And I look forward to seeing you at VRIC. I mean, geez, this market could change again by the time we have VRIC, right? And I think that change will probably be for the better.
Yep, for sure. I agree. All righty then. Take care, buddy. And you all be sure to hit the subscribe button. Love how you support for the channel. Thank you all for watching.